In this part, we are going to see how to set up cPanel and log in. We'll create a user, and by the end of the video, you're going to have WordPress website running on your cPanel server. I will use this domain for this example. And if I go to this domain for now, you can see it redirects to dan.com. And that's because of the IP address that is there. And we're going to change this before we add the website. So first things first, let's create a cPanel user. So log into WHM, and we need to create a cPanel user because you can't log into cPanel with your root user, and you definitely can't use that for creating your websites on cPanel. User management in WHM can be done under account information and account functions. So here under functions, this is where we can create a new account. And I'm just going to click there, create a new account. Another thing that I should probably remind you is that if you don't add your DNS records, here under server configuration, there's this basic web host setup. So under this, so here is where you can add your DNS records. If you scroll down, the DNS records will be there. Make sure you add this because without name servers on your WHM settings, you'll not be able to create an account. You need to create an account for your users. And another thing that's also important to creating users is under packages. So if it's just you that's on the server, then this might not be a big deal. If other people will be hosted on the server, you'll need to create packages, and you can click you can search for packages there and create a package. But we're just going to use the default package for this first example. The domain that I want to give this user, I'll just use the domain that we're going to use as an example here, and I will add the domain there. Username, you can give it a username that's at least difficult. Maybe I can add a number there. I'm just using an easy username that's easy to remember. Remember, this is the one that is used to log into cPanel, so make sure it's something that is kind of complicated. So password, I will use a generated password. Even if you forget the password, you can always come back here and reset the password yourself. I'll just paste the password there and the user as well. So for email, I'll just use any email here. And then package, you can choose a package. If you have other packages created, they will be there for you to select. I'm going to go with the default for now. Or you can also select the options manually. So you can give them the different specifications you want. Maybe you want a certain amount of disk space. Any limitations you want to put on them, you can put here, but it's always easier to do this in a package so that you can reuse the package. cPanel theme, I'll just go with the default there, which is Jupyter, and then the locale. Then you can choose the language, locale there. If you're in Turkey, you can go with Turkish there for your cPanel for this user. Enable Apache Spam Assassin, definitely. Enable Spam Box, definitely. For you to use this, you have to enable that. So this will keep all the spam in one box, and that's what you want. Mailing route settings. So if you want to use a mailing route, maybe you're using Workspace, Google Workspace, or you're using something else for mail, then you can come here and do remote mail exchange. But I'm going to go with local mail exchange. Reseller settings. If you want this account to be a reseller is an account that can create other accounts and can give them functionalities that gives specific settings. So they can also create their reseller package and assign those to various users. So if this is just a normal user, and that's the one I'm going to go with, a normal user, I'm just going to leave that unchecked. And then DNS settings. Enable DKIM on this domain, definitely. So enable SPF, definitely. So I will leave the last two options unchecked. So after all that, I'm just going to click on create, and this should create our user. Scrolling down, you'll see that the user and all the settings have been created. So here there's also a link to go straight to cPanel, and you can click on this link. So whenever you're the root user, you can actually log in as other users. If I was to list the users on my account on my cPanel, I mean. And to list the users on your cPanel, you can just come here under account information and list accounts. You're going to see that we have the one user that I've just created. And if you come here, you'll see that you can actually manage this user. You can change their password, change email. You can suspend the account. You can prevent them from being suspended. So here under list users, there is usually a way or a button that allows you to log into other users, but that has been disabled, and we disabled that, and we did disable that. And if you want to enable it, you can go into tweak settings to allow root access to user cPanel accounts. That allows you to just click and log into a user directly. So if that is a security feature that you want to disable, you can go into tweak settings, and it will lead you directly to accounts that can access a cPanel user account. So you can see there's an option for you to allow the root user, the account owner, and the cPanel user to access it. And this means that if you allow this, then the root user can just click on the link and it will log them into that user, and they will assume that user. Account owner and cPanel user. So in this case, the root user is not allowed, but the account owner, which in this case is root, will be allowed to click onto that user and log in. So let's just do this as an example. And then I will save. So account owner is the one who created the account. In this case, the root user owns the account that we just created. So if I was to go back into account information and list accounts, I should be able to log into that user without using a password. So if you come down here, you're going to see that something new has been added here, and this allows me to just click on it and it's going to log me into that user, and I can use that user to create my websites or whatever else I need to do with this user. So if this is a feature that you don't want, then you can always go back into the tweak settings and then look for that feature, users who can access a cPanel user, and then just make it the cPanel user only. In this case, we have logged in to cPanel, and the first thing I want to do on cPanel is to enable two-factor authentication. So now that we are here, you can start with WordPress. You can install WordPress. You can install SiteJet Builder. This is a free website builder that cPanel creates and provides for free to people who have cPanel licenses. And then you can also explore account and see what you have there. I'm just going to skip. So you can see if I click there on WP Toolkit, I will see I don't have any WordPress, but I can install WordPress. So before I install WordPress, let's go and see how we can enable two-factor authentication. So if I click on cPanel here to go home, you'll see cPanel has lots of things. So usually there's this search up here that will help you get wherever you want to go. So for example, if you're searching for something to do with files, you can just search for files and then go to the file manager or whichever one you want to go to. Let me enable two-factor authentication for this user. I enable that on WHM. Let me enable that on cPanel as well. So to enable two-factor authentication, let's just use the search up here, and I'm just going to search for two-fa. I can click on two-factor authentication. I can set up two-factor authentication. I will use Google Authenticator to scan the QR code. And then I need to enter the security code that I'm provided on my Authenticator app. So make sure you configure this. At least it will add a level of security for your cPanel user. So now that that is done, let's get to installing WordPress and running WordPress on cPanel. And cPanel has this nice feature here called WP Toolkit. This is very helpful if you have WordPress websites running on your cPanel. So before I even click on install WordPress, let me go to WHM and I want to copy my IP and I want to add various DNS records on Cloudflare. So for your website to run and you're using Cloudflare, of course you're going to need an A record, and the A record is the authoritative record that tells the internet where to go. So if somebody looks for your domain, it will tell them to go to this IP to look for your domain files. So I'm going to save. And on top of the A record, at least you also need a WW record. So this is a bare minimum. And for WW, I'm going to use a CNAME. And the CNAME is going to be www. And I'm going to use @ and @ signifies the domain name itself. So I'm going to save that. And after changing the IP, the A record IP, let's see if the domain now knows where to go. Okay, there you go. The domain has been pointed to your cPanel. And the first thing I will need to do, let's see if I need to add the domain on cPanel again, or I can just go ahead and install. I can just go ahead and install WordPress. So I can go ahead and install WordPress, and I'll just install it in the default location. I will not install it in any directory. If you want to install it in a directory, you can do so, but I will leave the default link so that there is no directory that is going to affect the path of my WordPress. And then the website title, you can give it a title there. And then plugin theme, choose a plugin theme. So these are just preset things that cPanel has added here. And I'm just going to go with, let me go with WordPress Essentials. I'm sure that's just going to give me the bare minimum of what I need on WordPress. And then website language, if you want to change your WordPress language, you can change that there. And of course, you want to use the latest and the current version of WordPress. And the username, of course, use a strong username here. Make sure you have a strong username. Don't use the default value if it is a weak one. Make sure you use a strong one, because WordPress is constantly getting brute forced. And if your password is weak and your username is weak, you will get hacked. Let me copy this password and user. And then the database, you can change the database settings, or you can just use the default values there, and I will leave the default values. And then also, WP Tools allows you to enable automatic updates. For this, I'm just going to go with yes. All major and minor WordPress updates need to happen. So here you can choose to enable auto updates. You can even force it to automatically update everything. That's the one I want to go with. I like to update everything, so I'm just going to leave plugins updated, and the same for themes. Themes, I will also leave them first. After all these settings, I'm just going to click on install. So let's wait for all this to complete. Download completed, database created, configuring the installation. There we go, installation complete. WordPress has been installed. Take a minute to set it up. So you can go and install plugins, or no thanks. Let's just click there on go and install plugins. So WP Toolkit allows you to manage your WordPress right here on cPanel. But I'm going to close that. WP Toolkit shows us that we have this website. And if you need to log into that website, click there to log into the website. Let's see what setup does. So that allows you to regenerate a new password for your WordPress. And it also shows you the WordPress version you're running. So you can do all this. You can enable password protection for your WordPress, so that when someone visits your site, they have to enter a password. For now, let's come to the WordPress, reload it. Let's go to the front end and reload it and see if the WordPress was successfully installed. So there we go. The WordPress has been installed. Your WordPress has been installed successfully. So let me try to log into my WordPress, and I can just click there on login. So it's taking too long. This means that something is probably wrong. So let's just wait. But the fact that it's taking this long, there is probably something wrong, and that could be due to DNS or some setting on Cloudflare. So we're going to, and you can see something actually indeed is wrong. So we're going to first of all look at the DNS. Let's come to cPanel, and we can just search for zone zone editor, and this is where you'll find the DNS records for your different domains that you add on cPanel. So I'm going to go to manage, and here I can see that currently I only have this one, which is not true. If you go to WHM, you're going to see that there are other records. So this is something that happens due to the feature list on the package. So the package being used by this user doesn't have the list to allow all the other records to be shown. So let's go back to WHM, and I'll search for package. Just come here and search for packages, and there you can go to editor package. So if you're using a different package, select that package and edit it. In this case, I only have the default package. I'm going to click there, edit. And if I was to scroll down, there is something here called feature list. So this feature list, there is a couple of features that are bundled together for this package. So I can click there on view to view those features enabled for that package. If there's any feature you don't want for a particular package, you can always come here and disable it. In this case, if I scroll all the way down, the one that I don't have access for is this, and I can see this one is there, so it should probably work. Maybe that's a bug in WHM, I don't know, because I can see the A and the CNAME records should be shown like they should, but they're not being shown. So I'm just going to click there on zone editor to show all these other records as well. And then I'm also going to disable that and enable it again, and then click on save. And once that is saved, I can come back to my zone to see if the records are now being displayed. Let me refresh the page. And now you can see all our records are now being shown here as they should. There are certain records that we can just enable to be created automatically. I don't know if I can find it here, DKIM. Okay, yeah. So if I search for DKIM, I want to enable them globally. So any account that is created, those will also be created. So to do that, I'm just going to click here on proceed. And these are records that are important for email. This should update the existing accounts with the DKIM and SPF records. So you won't have to select this. The next time you're creating an account, you don't have to select this. It is something that should be done automatically. So there are more features that you have here on DNS functions. You can even come here, just click on DNS functions, and you'll see there are certain features here on WHM that you can look at. If you want to do anything, you can come here and find what you're looking for as pertains to DNS on your cPanel. So this is on WHM. Let's go back to cPanel. The next thing I want to do is I want to go to SSL and see which SSL have been issued for my domain. That could be the issue that's causing this, because I can see there's an SSL there, but maybe it is not being recognized properly. So I'm going to click there on SSL, TLS. All these features can be found on the homepage of your cPanel, but it's much easier to search if you know what you're looking for. So you can also change the system's default key in WHM. If you want the default key to be any of these other types, you can do so. In this case, I'm just going to leave the default here, but you can always go with RSA 4096 bits, although it would be slightly slower. Let's come here and manage SSL. I want to see if there's an SSL for my domain. And for this domain, I can see that SSL has been issued, and I can look at the certificate details. So this is a self-signed certificate. Okay, so even though it's a self-signed certificate, I know I can use this with Cloudflare, and you can see it expires then. So I can use that with Cloudflare. So here I can see that I cannot go into that page. Let me go to Cloudflare, and I will come to SSL settings. This is probably what's causing this redirection issue. I'll come to Cloudflare, come down, and I'm going to make it full. And if I make it full, it should work with the other SSL. So if I refresh this, let's see how this is going to work. And there we go. Now that is working well. So whenever you see that issue of redirection and you know that you've set up your DNS properly and all the settings are working well, just come to Cloudflare and try and change the SSL settings for that website and use full. If you want to use the full strict one, you're going to need an origin certificate from Cloudflare, which can be generated down here. So there we go. We have this WordPress here, and we can go to the website. I thought that if I clicked on WP Toolkit, it should allow me to log in. But even if that's not the case, you saw that you can easily generate a password by clicking on Setup. So when I click on it, you can see that it automatically logs me in. I can already see dashboard, and that's what we want. So if you want to log in, you just click there and it's going to automatically log you in. At the end of this video, we have achieved our objective, and the objective was to get our WordPress installation working on cPanel. Just a review of what we've done so far. First of all, we created a user on WHM, and then we used the user to log into cPanel, and you also saw how you can make the user automatically log into cPanel or disable that function under tweak settings. So that's something you can do. If you don't want any user to automatically log into a cPanel user, that's a setting you can change. And then after that, we logged into cPanel, and then we went into WP Toolkit where we installed WordPress. And then after that, we did set up something to show our DNS records in the zone editor. That was something I overlooked, but we were able to get it working. And then after that, we were able to log in here by just changing the SSL setting on Cloudflare. Now the next step, of course, you're going to need to copy the DNS records from cPanel and add them here. But there is an option here for, if you come to, where is it? If you come up here, there's an option to import DNS records. So let's see if that's the last thing I can do before we end the video, because I read somewhere that we can get our DNS records from our website backup. So let's come here and do backup. Backup wizard. I'll click there on backup, and I will take a full backup of my website. Generate backup. Full backup download is in progress, but we can just go back. So there's a backup available for download. Let me download it and see if it's something that can help me get my DNS records. So let's open it to see what's inside here. So let me end it here, and we're going to continue in the next part. In the next part, I'm going to try and see if I can import DNS records into Cloudflare, but if I can't, I'm just going to add them one step at a time manually, and the DNS records are all available here. If you just search for Zone Editor, you're going to see all your DNS records for the domain. So that's it for this part. If you have any question, feel free to let me know.